For 10 years, he said nothing. Yet his silence spoke louder than any words ever could. The day he stopped talking, no one took him seriously. Some thought he was just playing a strange joke. Others were convinced he lost his mind. But for Daniel Reed, a man once known for his endless speeches and restless debates, silence wasn't madness, it was a lifeline. He was just 27 when he walked away from everything, his high-powered job, his wide circle of friends, his bustling city life, and took a vow that no one could possibly understand. 10 years without a single word. When a reporter finally cornered him and asked why, he simply scribbled on a small notepad, "Because I've been speaking all my life, but I've never truly listened." And with that, Daniel disappeared into the quiet. Rolling hills of Montana, leaving behind a world completely addicted to noise. At first, the silence felt like torture. He'd wake up with a desperate urge to speak, to explain himself, to justify this radical choice. But there was no one there to convince, only himself. In the stillness, every sound became amplified. The rustle of wind through the pines, the relentless ticking of his old clock, the distant, hypnotic hum of insects. It was then he realized something he'd never noticed before. Silence does unbegin when words stop. It begins when your thoughts finally settle. That first year wasn't peaceful. It was a war. A relentless battle against his own mind. A flood of memories, regrets, guilt, and fears, all demanding his attention. And since he couldn't escape them through words, he had no choice but to face them one by one. By year 3, the world had mostly forgotten about him. But Daniel was learning a new language, the language of stillness. He began to study nature like it was scripture. He watched how the river moved without rushing, how the ancient trees bent in the wind without breaking, how storms would come and go, yet the sky always remained. He filled journals with sketches and silent reflections. He wrote profound sentences like, "Silence is not emptied, full of answers," and another, "Those who cannot sit with their own thoughts will never know their own truth." He learned to communicate without speaking, through his eyes, through his presence, through simple acts of kindness. Soon, people from nearby towns began visiting him. They didn't come to talk, but to sit in silence with him. And somehow, in that shared quiet, they found a healing of their own. By year 9, rumors began to spread. "Have you heard about the silent man in the mountains?" people would whisper. "They say he hasn't spoken for a decade, but just being near him changes you." Documentary crews tried to find him. Journalists camped outside his small cabin, but he stayed hidden, calm, unbothered, and completely untouched by the growing attention. Then, one harsh winter, a young woman found her way to him. She had recently lost her brother and carried a grief so heavy it felt like it was suffocating her. Through tears, she asked him, "Why did you stop talking? How did you survive the silence?" Daniel looked at her with deep compassion, wrote 3 words on a piece of paper, and gently handed it to her. It read, "I started listening." The woman cried even harder, but this time they were tears of release, of understanding. That single, powerful moment went viral when she later shared her story online. Suddenly, the world wanted to hear from the man who hadn't spoken in 10 years. On the 10th anniversary of his vow, hundreds of people gathered at the base of the mountain. News channels set up their cameras. Social media was buzzing with anticipation. He's finally going to speak. When Daniel walked onto the small wooden stage, his beard long and his eyes bright with a quiet strength, you could hear a pin drop. He looked out at the expectant crowd. 10 years of silence held behind those eyes. And then, finally, he spoke. Just one sentence. The world doesn't need louder voices. It needs deeper ones. That was it. 10 years. One sentence. And yet, it echoed louder than 1,000 speeches. After that day, Daniel didn't return to the world of noise. He founded a small, peaceful retreat he called the Quiet Path. People came from all over the world not to learn how to speak better, but how to listen better. He became a global symbol of inner peace, not because he spoke perfectly, but because he reminded us of something incredibly simple, that wisdom doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. When an interviewer later asked him if he regretted those silent years, Daniel smiled and said, "In silence, I found the sound of my soul. And that's worth every word I never said." Most of us fear silence because it forces us to face what's inside. We run from quiet moments, filling them with screens, calls, and constant noise. But the truth is, silence isn't emptiness. It's space, it's healing, it's clarity. It's about having the courage to pause, to reflect, and to reconnect with the part of ourselves that has always been waiting to be heard. So, the next time life feels too loud, don't just add more noise. Step back, breathe, and listen. Because sometimes silence says everything. If this story moved you, please subscribe and share it with someone who might need a moment of peace today. Thank you for watching.